Cyborg, #4, written by Morgan Hampton with art by Sean Damien Hill, Anthony Fowler Jr., and Michael Attea. In this issue, we have Cyborg decide, you know what, that lady who's been talking a lot of shit about me online, well, she did help me out by getting Marcus Wilcox's information out about how he's taken everybody's copied minds and using it for his programming over at that his company of his. Maybe I should thank her by going out to have some lunch with her and maybe a budding romance.
That, first off, the idea of last issue to this, there's a lot of stuff that happened off panel in between issues because he went to her. And this is the fun play, and this is something that's kind of a neat deal. When you did go and take the hiatus and you came back, you ended up missing that one issue. I mean, you know, we ended up talking about, I think I talked with Aiden for the show. So at one point, you only missed one issue. But shit has hit the fan in this awful series from where me and you left off to get to here, where everything that we talked about, because we were going on about the idea of a soul, what's this, and AI and things like that. We're completely past that bullshit.
No, it still works because you still have the, quote, soul of Silas Stone inside the computer.
Doesn't work anymore.
It still works. He's still there. He's still conscious.
They spelled it out that they were just collecting
his memories.
Yeah, and collecting things as if it was like I said in the last issue, it was like Amazon collecting your info. Nonsense. And then it becomes just an idea of, I'm just setting up. And then they escaped
into robot bodies.
They're now a robot army going around. Yeah. This book is bullshit. This book sucks. Great. Nobody's reading it. It's just awful. And then you have a big moment where, okay, you set up this whole social media girl. She's going to do that. That happens off panel in between issues where now everybody is against, the guy who's now in jail, Marcus Wilcox. He needs his medicine. Like, what is fucking going on in this book anymore? While
this medicine has to be a bigger thing overall. So it's just there to set things up for the next issue.
So you end up there, and I ended up sending you a collage of this girl where she's just eating and shit's falling out of her mouth all the time. Her face morphs all over. It's the worst.
They're eating loaded hot dogs, man. That shit gets messy, okay?
At one point, it looks like she's just spitting shit out in her hand, maybe to examine it while they're outside. Then you have to go with the idea that Cyborg, well, I don't really need to eat, but I'm going to eat and all this. What are you doing here? What is this book?
Enjoying hot dogs. That's what we're doing.
This book is fucking terrible. It's so bad. And we'll get to a worse one next. But still, why is this a series? What is this doing? What are you having here?
It just made me remember, was it this issue? Oh, no. You know what? It's in Hawkgirl next with the freaking idea of what a Metropolis hot dog is. It pissed me off so goddamn bad.
Oh, nonsense. I mean, and again,
this week.
What are we doing here? The idea where we thought it might have been a neat play of usually you end up, oh my God, Machiner Man. Oh my God, I hate my dad. And it looked like this might twist and turn a little bit. But I said right from the beginning, it was when you ended up, and they even bring it up here, where Cyborg's at his dad's funeral. My dad's a prick. Like he's just yelling to everybody social media-wise. And then you just have to have this play. Off panel, this girl helps. Cyborg has to take her out to lunch. And then they end up having to go back and forth with, I thought you hated me. Well, I'd never hated you. I just want you to do more. I should do more. I'm like, what is
I don't mind that, but it is going along the lines of what we did with like Titans, even when we talked about like with Superboy, like John Kent talking to Superman about the idea of why don't you do more, Dad? Because Beast Boy and Titans this week, like we just talked about, he wants to plant some trees. Estelle's like, hey, you're from Detroit. Why don't you do more shit here? Well, I do some Titan stuff, but you're right. I should do more here. That stuff's okay for the character overall because you're establishing Cyborg to still be a part of Detroit. And even this idea, like, the people who oppose him on media and stuff like that, they're trying to, like, spin something to their narrative, but they still expect more out of Cyborg than what he's just doing with Titans. I don't mind that, even though it's not great for the series because she was just made out to be a bitch this entire time. But what I do mind is that it all just coming down to the point, like, you know what? You always make guns out of your hands. Why don't you make giant tenderizers? And then he does to fight robots. I'm like, you spent way too much time with this.
You're saying, and I know that Morgan Hampton's not going to go into this thinking, well, my book's bullshit, and it's but at this point, 4 issues in, everything that he's doing just points to me that nobody is reading this and nobody's going to care. So the idea of setting up like, oh yeah, I want to set him up more in Detroit, whatever, nobody's going to care. You go forward. You have to do something big to continue the deal, to maybe get an ongoing, and then start. This book doesn't do anything. It's like random thoughts and ideas. You got social media thrown in. You got him hating his dad. You got AI. All these things that are like hot topic deal. But the idea that you're not doing anything with them, so by the end, it's just a convoluted mess. It's
even
nothing.
The idea of all these people and the robots and stuff like that coming out and like, we just have this robot uprising now. They're going after everybody. The processing, like the pretty much the app that Marcus made. They're going to get that from Star Labs. We're going to break Marcus out of jail. We're going to break
the Soulless app and the head, that whole Soulless deal.
We're even going to go and break out the Fearsome Five, like members Mammoth and Gizmo.
Again, it's like, what?
So now we're going to have the Fearsome Five show up who are working with a robot army against Cyborg. I was hoping the Fearsome Five would show up and hey, we got to help Cyborg here.
That's
even
what
though
I
we
thought.
hate his ass. And it might still be. It just seems odd that they're grabbing Sarah Charles by her lab coat alongside the robot army at the end. So I'm like, I don't know what your motives are right now, but hopefully it's on the up and up.
But the big play here and the thing that gets me is at this point where you have 2 more issues left after this one, it almost feels like somebody has gone to Morgan Hampton and said, listen, your story sucks. You need to do something. Furious 5. There's no real setup or why. It just kind of happens to be, okay, classic deal going. In this, when you think about it, and me and you had that argument of the what is AI and things like that. And again, most writers do, am I more machine or man? The idea of this soulless deal and these robots should really make Cyborg think. Maybe the idea of when he attacks them, because he's just attacking them and just destroying them. He doesn't care. He's got the meat tenderizer for some fucking reason going to town with it. And in that, you would think that maybe he sits there and what's different between me and them? I'm half man, half machine, but you don't get that. That's why I don't go with that whole play.
Along those lines, though, I do appreciate that aspect of Cyborg, which it's always overplayed because it's what everybody plays, but you do get it with Silas being a part of the computer now at Star Labs, where he understands where Victor's coming from because of his current situation. Yes, his body's dead. His consciousness still lives on, but in the form that it's living now, he understands, he might have not done the right thing.
That's fine. But again, in the series, that's just the side deal where he's just it's not hitting. And again, it's just bad. I mean, the setup, all the stuff with the side story, you can't. I mean, legitimately,
there's aspects to it that could be really good.
The thing that you like about Silas and AI, that could be, but even in a book that he's writing, this guy is not really centering mainly. He's more concerned about having lunch with the social media girl and then having the Solace deal and this whole play and then the Furious 5. You're convoluting a book that just makes no sense, most of the deal, and just weird. There's just not that much to it or to talk about because it's just bad. And again, nobody is reviewing it. Nobody's reading it. It's me and you, 4 other people. But
like I said, there's aspects to this book that I think could have worked really well. And it's talking about, taking a different way of doing Am I More Man than Machine, because you always have that with Cyborg, like I said, but now presenting it to Silas Stone with him having his consciousness downloading, his body dying, but him still living on digitally. In a way, it's a way for them to actually have a catharsis.
When me and you were talking, did me and you talk about maybe the possibility of having Silas in Cyborg's circuitry and almost having a firestorm deal?
A few issues ago, though.
Yeah, it feels like that's what it might have been better off served. And then at the end, deciding what I have to do with this and go with it.
But no, if that was the case, Cyborg would actually end up hating his father more than he did when he was alive.
There you go. By the end of this, I don't think
that'd be a prison for both of them.
And even then, again, now we'll get back into the idea of soul or whatever. You would have, if it's me, and right now, you and me both have this deal where, oh, by the way, we have your dad's AI in this computer, and the computer, I loved you, Jimmy. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, well, hey there, AI daddy. Why didn't you say that before, you fucking asshole? And then I pull the plug, Eric, just like I did in real life. Pull it, and you're dead. I'm telling you, there's no soul. It would just piss me off.
That way.
But would you think would that make everything that you were upset about your father in the past, would that make you feel better because an AI program based on his thing is said,
again,
I'm sorry?
Say that it's not an AI program. It's his memories downloaded, his complete consciousness at the time copied and downloaded. So it is him continuing living on.
The last issue, they changed it a bit and said that it was just the information of the people that was grabbed. What are
we besides our information?
Well, again, though, where you're saying that then Cyborg is legitimately killing innocent people in this. He's just wrecking house on
the thing is, those people are still alive as well, though. These are copies.
That doesn't matter. That's still a copy. It's still its own thing. It's still that could be Jimmy AI. Doesn't matter if I'm alive. He's still taking care of it. I just
want to say, I hope if it ever happens, if there's a doppelganger Eric Shea and I murder him because I know he's going to try to murder me because I know myself, I hopefully will not be convicted of murder for it.
And the weird play, too, is that the idea of this soulless controlling, now it just end up becoming, they flip that one switch and it's now they're not even the other people. They're just mindless, controlled robots that are going to attack. Because if it's me and you, we're too lazy to go. They're go and attack Cyborg. We're like, really? We're going to head over here. They're not even
Where's my robot
anymore.
smokes?
It just ended up becoming this weird robot army. Everything's convoluted with it. It's concepts maybe are interesting, but the actual...
The concepts could be really good. It just didn't play out as well as I wanted it to. And the art's not great.
No, it's wonky. At points, there's some things that you're like, okay, that looks pretty cool. Do you like that girl ends up calling him Booyah Boy? And she's got all the funny names.
She's done that from the get-go.
I love the idea. She's like, I have all the funny names. Beast Bay. I'm like, no,
Beast Bay.
You have names.
Oh, internet girl,
they're not really funny. I love the idea. You're like, yeah, that's Cyborg. He really wants to get in her pants because he's laughing like it's uncontrollable laughter. He hasn't heard anything as funny as that. I'm like, keep it in your pants,
Cyborg.
Eating that stuff, but then he's looking at her. She's got shit all over her face. I'm a messy eater. At one point, I swear, she's eating. She uses a napkin. It looks like she has put a gallon of mustard on that fucking hot dog. At one point, she's got it on her hands, dripping out of her mouth. The other point, she's just spitting up chunks.
Look, this is what possibly could be considered a first date, even though it's a get-together thank you with my lunch. But some people would find that endearing. She's not all hung up on how she looks, and she's able to eat in front of me and be herself and not have to worry about having shit all over her face.
At one point, I'm like, is Lady Clayface here? Because I'm telling you, her face morphs around in this bad art. She's really chewing. Is. Yeah, I guess. She's chewing all right, chewing up the scenery. Does that make sense? What would you give this?
Again, I'm giving this a 4 out of 10, and it's mostly for the idea, the concept, stuff like that, because it's not playing out well in the story, and there's just things about the Cyborg book that can make it really good. It's just we're not focusing on any of those.
No. And that's, sometimes you get caught up in that, even like a City Boy that we talked about just a minute ago. The idea of what we hoped we'd get, or maybe even when you're reviewing things like this and you do it that much, the idea of what we hope we are still going to get, that you kind of get a little, hopeful about it. It might affect your score. But reading the last issue and then into this, it really just slapped me in the face that there's nothing going on here that will ever be read by anybody, and it'll just disappear.
But Silas is dead, Jim. And the only thing that remains might be an AI version of his consciousness.
Silas is dead. Long live Silas, right? Here's the thing. Me and you doing this for quite some time now. Are we ever going to get a good Cyborg book? Are we? No. Because we keep getting these books and they always suck. They always suck like they'd never sucked before the suck.
Well, it's because nobody can do anything new with Cyborg, and it's always just reverting back to the same stories.
And isn't it weird, at the beginning, they try to, really give us that idea that they're going to give us something different. They're going to do something, like you said, at one point intriguing. Okay, we're doing that.
Stone.
And then it just gets back, and then what usually does happen, which is funny because of, the Fearsome Five chat, it always reverts to bullshit like that. That didn't work. Let's go. And I'm going to go 4 out of 10 as well.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.